most shocking thing about my discussion with former Army Commander Mike Jeffery was how strikingly similar his challenges were in 2000 as they are today. On this NSP short, he describes the problem as he saw it at the turn of the millennium. Does this deeply rooted problem still exist today in the Army and the wider military? Take a listen and judge for yourself.
First of all, the Army was stagnant and in my mind, atrophying. The Army, as I saw it, was not sustainable as it was. I used to say when we were talking to people, I got too much Army for my budget and too little Army for my tasks. And it was being pulled in many, many different directions. We had little resource flexibility in an environment where we should be preparing for the future. I didn't have money to invest in the future. It was under strength, and the tempo was high and at times was increasing, and that was putting stress on the troops. Now, I have to be careful here because a lot of people are saying, well, Jeffrey is always saying the Army can't, and that was never what my message was. The Army will always do what's required of it to its own detriment. I mean, the Army would effectively eat itself up if it had to do its mission and do its job. But it's the people in it that are paying the price. And I was trying to caution people that we were already in the high-risk area, and we needed to think very seriously about what we're doing to people. The capability of the Army was a mixed bag. I wouldn't say it was all bad, because we were bringing into service some fantastic new equipment. We weren't ready for it. We hadn't planned in terms of how to produce it into service. But the equipment directorate, the DLRs of the world, had been sufficiently successful that we were bringing in things like the Lab 3, brand new multi-purpose vehicle that was probably world-class. In fact, I think it was world-class, and a number of other things that we had or were getting. But we also had some horrendously old equipment that was in bad repair, and probably more than else, we had major gaps in our capability from an equipment point of view, not the least of which we were blind, dumb, and deaf as an Army. We had virtually no ISTAR, intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, and reconnaissance capability. So very, very serious problems in that regard. But beyond that, the Army's credibility with government and with the Department of National Defense was very poor. The Army had not been willing to face up to some of those issues and some of the realities for quite some time. In my mind, the Army was in denial. And it had a bit of a crisis management mentality. The view of many people, I have to be very careful here because I won't include certain people. I mean, my predecessor, Bill Leach, never thought this way. But a number of others before him, and certainly some in the senior leadership, were of the view that our plan was good. We knew what we needed as an Army. All we had to do was get the funding to do it. And we were not going to compromise our values and our needs for our soldiers and for the nation as an Army by compromising, by doing with less. What they didn't understand was that in the national capital, the Army's credibility was such that they knew that was the case, and the belief was the Army did need to change and could do with less, or certainly if they showed they changed, they might be worthy of more. I knew that. Having worked there as CPROG and as DLR, I knew that was the culture and the reality, but it wasn't within the Army. The Army was, in my mind and in my term, something I started calling an addicted culture. I hadn't heard the term before, or hadn't. And again, I was working with a consultant on a particular issue. We were talking about cultures and personalities of institutions and so on. And he'd used the term an addicted culture, and it became clear to me that's what we were talking about. And it was a situation where the organization was so wedded to a particular form of warfare, a particular organization and type of operations, that it was addicted to it. It could not see in any other way, shape, or form doing this job. Mm-hmm. It had it right. It was addicted to that form. It's like the old, everybody's heard the story of the army of those days of pre-World War I with the cavalry were still tied to their horses. They could not envisage that army with a tank. They could not see that kind of warfare. And they fought tooth and nail to keep the horse. I still feel that we were in that situation, and to some extent maybe still are. I don't know, but certainly we're at that point. That there was and is another view of operations, and we need to see things change.